Hi, everybody. This is Adam Noyce from the Welcome to 10 Forward podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Trek games, the two recent Star Trek games that have come out, along with what we would like to see for Star Trek games going into the future, past Star Trek games, everything like that. So just Star Trek games in general. So stay tuned, stick around, and enjoy.
We're talking about Star Trek.
We are talking about Star Trek. I love Star Trek. Jim, I love Star Trek.
I do. Could you tell? Could you tell? I don't have my Quark classes today though, so.
What? Come to Quarks. Quarks is fun.
Quarks is fun.
I just have a feeling. I have a feeling that what this podcast is essentially going to be is it's going to be us starting to talk. No matter what it is, we're going to start talking about a subject, and it's just going to go to Deep Space Nine. Every time. Well, I'm joined by my co-host over here, Jim Frasca. If you could introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Jim Frasca, and for the first time I can actually say I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Scrappy Doo. I stream every Thursday, and I also have been streaming the past couple weeks on Monday or Tuesday as well, randomly, so definitely make sure to check that out. But that's about video games, and Adam is about Star Trek, so... This is both. Wait,
yeah, I was going to say, that's actually a pretty decent segue there. There were two games that came out relatively recently that you actually introduced me to
One's not out yet.
Yeah. I thought it was supposed to be out.
They released a teaser.
Oh, a teaser trailer for it. Yeah. Because
I
gotta tell you, I wasn't too impressed by the...
I wasn't either. I think it looks like it's a mobile game, to be completely honest.
Well, here's my favorite thing. It looks like higher graphics version of Star Trek Online.
So it doesn't make me think of Star Trek Online. It reminds me, my dad has actually Star Trek Fleet Command on his phone, and it reminds me more of that than Star Trek Online. Because Star Trek Online seems more like a RPG.
It is.
Kind of like World of Warcraft, and that's not what this looks like. It looks like a Command and Conquer-esque game.
It's a rule the world.
Yeah,
simulator.
Exactly.
Here's my favorite comment that I saw in the YouTube video. It says, "Wow, the new Stellaris mod looks fantastic."
Yes, because it's made by the same people that made.
It is made by the same people. Okay, because it's really funny, and one of my friends was telling me about this. Is like, Adam, you've got to get Stellaris, but just install the Star Trek mod people have created for it. And I'm like, well, speaking of that, actually,
I don't have to.
I don't have to anymore.
And I think that's kind of why I don't think that I'll be playing it. I'm not so good at these strategy games.
Oh, I'm not good at it either, but I still might.
You can get into the roleplay of it, and I think the cool thing about it is, at least it implies that it's going to be, you have the choice of the four major factions: Cardassian, Romulan, Federation, or Klingon. Yeah. I think that's a cool aspect to it, because for the most part in video games and Star Trek, you play as either the Federation or the Klingons. In this new game, Star Trek Infinite, you can play as the Romulan Empire or the Klingon Empire or the Cardassian military. You play as the faction, not just a single character in a race in the Federation.
Here's the thing with the Star Trek Online graphics. I don't think they look much worse than the other Star Trek game that has only been out for a couple months.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Star Trek Resurgence.
That is made, and I only know very little about it. Very small crew. I do
very small crew.
Like 30 people.
Yes.
That. And it's made by ex-Telltale devs.
Yeah. It's made by a company called Dramatic Labs. But you look at these graphics and they're not overly great. I think this is another example of people who are just kind of fans trying to see what they can put together with as little resources as possible. Because Telltale was awesome. I loved Telltale, and it really genuinely made me kind of sad to see them go under. Because I loved the Walking Dead games.
Mm-hmm.
I especially loved the Tales from the Borderlands series.
I was gonna say, I remember the Borderlands. Yeah,
Yeah, like that was a fantastic game.
I think they did a Batman one too, didn't they?
They did do a Batman one. I never played it. I did play the 2 Minecraft games. Those were surprisingly good. I enjoyed those.
Minecraft has a story.
Yes. They turned something... It was a great example of they made something that I shouldn't otherwise give two craps about, and I wound up giving a crap about it. And it all came down to writing. And I think that's what Telltale's strength always was writing. These aren't games
They're story-driven games.
Yes. They are games where you're not really sitting down to play them per se. You are just there to make choices. And those are the type of games that I like to play. You know how big of a Mass Effect geek I am. But
yeah, I do.
I love those type of games. I really do. It's just that Telltale kind of takes that RPG level to the extreme. Even though apparently, I guess the gameplay for Star Trek Resurgence is like 9.5 hours. I guess it's relatively short. But I kind of admire that you can definitely tell Telltale was working on this game. People from Telltale were working on this game because it's structured. It's structured just like a Telltale game, where you have episodes, and each episode is like an hour long kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And it also really fits with Star Trek, considering that Star Trek is most notably a show. So I think it really works in that realm. The only thing that really is holding back, I think, Star Trek Resurgence, for me, are unfortunately the graphics. They look like something that could have come out probably in like 2010.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 360.
Yeah, 360 yeah, but they're pretty bare bones. Which compare that to Infinite, which Infinite looks beautiful.
I think I'll give Resurgence a pass with it being a narrative story driven game. From what I can remember, the Telltale games were artistic, but I would not say that they were groundbreaking graphics. They were very artistically styled, but nothing that I could say was on par with, like, for example, God of War. I wouldn't say that those are the same graphics-wise.
No.
So
Nor do I think they even have the budget or the time.
Oh, no.
For stuff like that. And I think any comparisons to those, I think, are kind of mute because of that.
Let's compare it again back to the show. Like, if you look at, for example, Star Wars versus Star Trek, Star Wars has a lot of action in it. Star Trek doesn't.
No.
But it has a lot of more politics in it. And,
For
a story-driven game, I'd rather have the story be more important for a Star Trek game than the visuals.
That's pretty true. Like, out of the 2 games, I don't know about you, but out of the 2 games, I get Resurgence more. That's the one that I'd want to play, because to me that it does feel like Star Trek. While if you're doing a rule the world simulator, to me you kind of, it's sort of cool because it's like, yeah, I'm playing in Star Trek, but that's just it. It's kind of like a little cool.
I think it's also more
thing.
Relatable with Insurgent, that you're going to be playing as a character. You're going to be able to meet the iconic characters throughout all of the Federation, and with Infinite, you're going to be doing like a whole entire fleet command. And in those kind of games, I feel like it can be harder to get that connection, that one-on-one connection.
You were really into, what is it? Was it Bridge Command?
Bridge Command, yeah.
Yeah, you were really into that. Like, how do you think that holds up?
It's tough, to be honest. For those that don't know, Bridge Command is a VR game, and you sit on the bridge and you play as one of the 4 major roles in a bridge crew. So you have captain, tactical, engineering, and navigation.
Right.
And it's a team building game. You have to play with other people, and you really can get into the role play of it. I think as a Star Trek game, it is very good, but for the longest time, its downside was it was VR only, and there had no crossplay.
Which is why I didn't get it.
It finally got crossplay. It finally got versions where you don't need to use VR. While on top of that, I can use VR if I have it and play with you without VR. And I just think that it makes it more accessible. And that's something that I definitely want to go through and play again. And potentially
I
not
want to
in
play.
VR.
I do want to play that. The thing is, I just spent my money on the new Starship Troopers game. So
There's a what?
Starship Troopers. Oh my god, yeah. There's a new Starship Troopers multiplayer game, and it's awesome. This sort of brings up the next point that I want to do. It's kind of a nice segue. Like, what type of Star Trek games do you want to see? Because personally, for me, I think a Star Trek game is unbelievably tough. Would be unbelievably tough to do. It's not like Mass Effect where you're completely creating this world from the ground up, or Dragon Age, you know, or like Dragon Age where it is the medium in the game already. So if you want, or Fallout, it was built for a game, so you can kind of copy off of that as you go. Star Trek was a show, a low budget show, and I think that feel would be very difficult within a game, except maybe for hard RPG.
I was literally going to say that. I think it needs to be in the world of, not the world of, but, you know, the same style as Mass Effect, Outer Worlds, Starfield, which is coming out. It needs to be in that, and you need to have total freedom, but you need to have a crew of 100, 200 people working on this game, and people that are dedicated to making it true to the established lore. You know, you're not talking about 3 games worth of established lore for Fallout.
Yeah.
You're talking about 60 years of established lore.
Well, that's the sad thing that I have with Star Trek Online, because that is Star Trek Online. Because of New Trek, Star Trek Online feels mute. Because it's none of it is continuity anymore. None of it. But
so here's my plot for a game. I had a little
oh,
bit
you
of
have a
time.
plot. Okay.
I have a plot, yeah. So I wanted to do something from inspiration from Infinite, in that you can choose whatever faction you want to be in. We'll give you, 4 or 5 factions that you can choose from. But, like, if you were to do that and make it an RPG, then you have to basically make 4 or 5 different games. What I wanted to do was make it so that you can choose the 4 or 5 factions, you start out in that faction, and then there is some kind of event that happens or threat that shows up that makes you have to cooperate with other factions to bring everybody together to come against this common enemy.
Yeah, that's a very typical RPG plot.
But it gives you the freedom at the beginning, but then, we can scope it down and make this a realistic game to get done.
Well, there's another option, too, that I think we could consider, and that is going hard. You can make it an RPG, but just they pick one faction. You're a human. Or you can pick an alien within the Federation. It would take if we do that, it would take a staggering amount of resources, time, and money that I just don't think is there for a Star Trek game.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah, and that's just it. So me personally, for my games, I'd want to scale it down and do more stuff like Telltale. I would love to see stuff done within like the Enterprise B era or C. The stuff between Kirk and Picard. I would love to see stuff within that period more, because to me that's sort of like a lost era of Star Trek where there's hardly anything really there. I would love to see stuff like that. But, something that just crossed my mind right now, you know how awesome it would be is if we had a Call of Duty style game, but we are on the siege of AR 558, and we're fighting, and we could either be Jem'Hadar or we could be Federation soldiers desperately trying to fight them off. Do you know how awesome that might be as like a little tiny multiplayer game? I would have a lot of fun with that. I think I'd have genuinely a lot of fun with that. And that would also bring up another element too. Is that's an area that hasn't really been explored in Star Trek before, or land battles, fights over planets, everything's in space and stuff like that. That's one reason why I love that episode so much.
I agree. There's the episode where the Jem'Hadar ship crash landed on that planet too, and there's the changeling in there, and there's like that standoff. But there's a lot of violence in that one.
There is, and I'm thinking of a couple other ones that you could really play up the horror. As sick of the Borg as I'm getting, I'm so sick of the Borg being a villain. I think an episode or a game that might be cool is sort of like an alien. What is that game that came out?
Isolation.
Yeah, it'd be like an alien isolation game, which I enjoyed heavily. But you are on the space station that has been taken over by the Borg, and you're trying to either flush them out or get out.
Well,
It's
what
a
if you made it-
survival-esque game.
What if you made it more like in Enterprise? There was that one episode where there was 2 Borg.
Yeah.
And that's all it was, and they wreaked havoc. Instead of like a Borg cube, it's just 1 or 2 Borg that are on your ship, and you have to deal with it. That would I would love that.
You might not even need to be in the Federation or something like that. You could
It
be
could be
doing
anyone.
experiments on these Borg units, and they wake up.
Oh, kind of like 7 of 9's parents.
Yes, it's really funny because Mass Effect has done that. There's several missions in Mass Effect where there's this race called the Geth, where they're artificial intelligence, and they wake up in this station when they're doing experiments on them, and they take over the space station. Just a couple of them, and it's horrifying. It really is horrifying. I wouldn't mind seeing that kind of stuff with the Borg, because to me the Borg are the one.
Overused.
They are overused, but I think they're like the only race within Star Trek that can continuously be horror.
And let me know what you think, and I was thinking really hard because I didn't want to use the Klingons or the Borg or the Changelings or the Romulans or the Cardassians. You know what a race that is established, we don't know much about them, the Breen. What if we made them?
We don't know much about the Breen, do we?
And that's why I'm okay if we don't have the research to the development funds to do the research, because there's already not that much known about them. So we make it up as we go, and it's okay.
If that's the case, you can also throw in the Tholian Ascendancy, too.
Yes, you can.
Because we know jack about them.
Yes.
The race that knows more about the Tholians are the Romulans, and the Vulcans to an extent.
And that was actually going to be another game idea that I had, was I think it might be cool if, and again in the Telltale style game, Season 5 of Enterprise, let's meet the Romulans.
Oh my God. You know
amazing.
what? That would work too, because you look at the actors and they've gotten so old that I don't think...
voice it.
They could still voice the fuck out of
100%.
those. Oh my God, Jim, I think that's the game. I think that's the game I'd want. Screw everything else that I've said. That's the game I want. Season 5. Get the same writers too. And I'm not even saying you need to make it an RPG. I'm saying no. Just tell the story. Have us play within it. You can have us play as Archer. You can have us play as Trip. You can have us sort of bounce back and forth between the bunch of them.
Yeah.
Make Season 5 of Enterprise a game. I think that's the best chance that you have. Yeah. I would love that. The Romulan War, that'd be great. I think they would be on board with doing it. I think the hardest one that you'd have to get is Scott Bakula.
Is he Archer?
Yeah.
He is more well known than
he's extremely well known, but he's also kind of like Avery Brooks, where he embraces the fact that he was on Star Trek, but he's known for other things, and
NCIS,
to him, like, and Quantum Leap is actually the one that really got Scott Bakula famous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, both him and Avery Brooks kind of look at Star Trek as important in their lives, but it was just a moment in their lives. It wasn't like a big defining thing. We don't have too much time left, but I have an interesting prospect for you. What about a Star Trek? What about a Star Trek board game?
I'm in. Monopoly? No.
I'm not talking like that. I don't know. There's a game that I love playing with my friend Chucky called Eldritch Horror, where it's like you have to stop all this. It is a hard game we've never won, but it is so much fun. And it's like you have to stop this stuff from coming up, and you get to play as a character who has certain skills that you can then use. And depending on what your skills are, you might be best suited to handle this situation and stuff like that. And I think that would be cool in Star Trek if they did something like that during like the Dominion War. I would love to see a legit Star Trek D&D rule set.
I was just going to say that.
I think that would be so cool.
I'm actually in the process of writing a D&D like one night campaign for some of our friends. Oh, I like that face. And you have no idea how many times I've said to myself, you know what? I should just make this Star Trek. But then I'm like, no one's going to play with me if I do that, so I can't.
Yeah, I would.
Me, the DM, and the one player. All right.
What's great about the Star Trek universe is that there's some strict rules that are in place already.
Yeah.
It's already established enough that you can now take a concept and run with it as a DM. And in fact, I've seen a couple of D&D campaigns that people have played on YouTube that are Star Trek. My thing is, make an actual rule book. Make an actual rule set.
Yeah.
Like, like 5th edition of D&D and stuff like that, but do it for Star Trek.
I don't know how up to date with Wizards of the Coast you are. I'm not super up to date. They're the people that own the rights to D&D.
Oh, yeah.
They actually just released an official campaign. It's not Star Trek, but it takes place in space. And I think you could take a lot of those space aspects that now are official rules and then just add your own characters.
And yeah, absolutely 100%. Because everybody thinks D&D needs to just be fantasy. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You can do hard sci-fi, you can do light sci-fi, you can even do horror. I really want to do an H.P. Lovecraft style D&D campaign really bad. Well, Jim, it looks like we are out of time. Any final thoughts that you wanna say before we really wrap this up?
I wish there was more of a cult following in video games for Star Trek.
Right.
I will say that there is a Klingon game. It's from like the PS2 era, I think, and it's a first-person shooter. It's a lot of fun. I can't remember the name of it, but if you're looking for a first-person shooter to be able to go mangle people with the bat'leth, look it up. It's a PS2 game.
I think making a Star Trek game is very difficult to begin with. A video game, specifically, is very difficult anyways, just because of the nature of what Star Trek is. But if there is one, go the Telltale route or really go hard on one area or another. I think I'm sick of Rule the World simulators. I doubt anybody at Paramount's going to listen to us schmucks sitting here talking about it. No. Sure.
We care. We care about each other. Adam.
Yes.
We talk Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's enough to continue and make the game, right?
Right. Yes, 100%. 100%.
For two people to buy it.
Yeah, for 2 people to buy it, that's enough. To spend millions of dollars making this game. Yeah, when it's on sale too. We can't even play the $40 for it. We have to wait until it's $25.
All right. So, like I said, my name is Jim. I do have a YouTube channel, finally. I like to stream video games. In particular, on Thursdays, I always play Forza because of the weekly updates. But lately, on Monday and Tuesday, I've been playing different games. I've been playing through Ninja Gaiden lately on my streams, and Outriders as well. So if you want to check me out on YouTube, it's Scrappy Do, SCRAPYD0O. So follow me, watch me play video games.
And I don't really need to pimp myself out because this is my channel, but all my social media is in the description below, along with other episodes of this show, and other stuff can be found down there as well. And we'll see you later in the next episode of Welcome to 10 Forward. See you there, and live long and prosper.